Hello there, everybody on Twitch. I'm just pulling up my dashboard. Really appreciate everyone for tuning in. We'll give people a quick little shout out. Hi, Carly, and hey, Chris. Appreciate everyone for tuning in early and getting in there already. And yeah, so just a little intro before we get too started. If people don't know who I am, my name is Robbie Gross. I do a sports podcast called Sports on the Hill Podcast, and we cover a lot of different things, including the Wizards and Capitals, who are both on tonight. So I might do little live scoring updates for those games. I'll get into that in a little bit. But we got a special guest here. I wanted to thank all the followers. I think we just went over 100 followers. Now we have 105. So I want to thank Quantum and Peter and a bunch of other people. And then I see Champ with the True No Spots podcast just rated. So that's great. My wife Liz is in the chat. So I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. So yeah, my podcast has been going on for about 5 years now. We cover all the different DC sports. It's called Sports on the Hill podcast because we talk about all the sports that are on the hill. And Champ, I appreciate you using your raid with us. And hi, Sith. So yeah, tonight's gonna be an extra special show. So I'm starting a new show called Streamers, Songs, and Sports. It's gonna be about all the different things that I love. So I love streaming. I've loved it for 5 years. I've loved music, and so there's a ton of great Twitch music streamers out there. So I wanted to bring them to the forefront. Maybe people don't know them, but I also just wanted to bring like the love of sports and music together because often they're so separated. I feel like on Twitch, but I know a lot of different music streamers actually really like some of the stuff that what was I gonna say? Oh, that they like a lot of different sports teams as well. So I see Ryan, the E Flat guy, is in there. I know that he loves Carolina, and I see that Carly's in there. I know that she likes Boston, and next week we'll have her on. But I thought this would be kind of fun to do an international podcast for the first show. So just I want to give a little bit of a introduction to Josh, our guest. Now I know a lot of people already know who he is, but he's a Billboard charting singer songwriter and a Grammy Award a Recording Academy member. He's also a freelance journalist. But he's much more than that, as you'll see very shortly. He's one of the sweetest guys I've ever met. I mean, nice to everybody that joins his Twitch stream. I'm sure that many of you guys have enjoyed a concert or two with the Turkeys. I've discovered a love of Twitch music a couple of years ago, and I'm just seeing it blossom over the last couple of years has been really incredible. If people want to know more about my sports podcast, go to sportsothp.com, and it's got all of our links and all of our videos and all that sort of stuff. We had episode 224. I won't get too much into it. I will say the Wizards are up right now 68-63 over Milwaukee with about 2.5 minutes left in the first half. Milwaukee is one of the top teams in the NBA, so this would be a big win for the Wizards, who are fighting for their playoff lives. The Caps, last I checked, were up 3-0. I believe it's in the second intermission in that game right now. But let's bring Josh in, and we can have a conversation with him, and we'll talk a little music, we'll talk a little sports, and we'll see where it goes from there, and have maybe a live concert.
What's going on, Robbie? How you doing, everybody?
There we
So
go.
good to see y'all.
Yes, thank you so much for doing this. First of all, it's a pleasure to be able to talk to you. I know that I talk through typing, but like it's very different experience. Oh, and I also want to explain my getup. I'm sorry if people are like, "What the heck is he wearing?" I'm a hockey fan, as we've talked about. This episode is kind of dedicated to this guy right here, TJ Oshie. I don't know if people know about him. His dad had dementia, and when he won the cup, he handed it to his dad, and it was a very moving moment where he said, "You'll always remember this moment," and he did, and it was one of the greatest moments of the last couple of years for his dad, who is affectionately known as Coach Oshie, and he passed away this week, and it happened right after my last podcast, and I was hoping that he would be able to recover, but it wasn't there. So it's dedicated to him. And he's already scored 2 goals tonight in his first game back since that. So I know his dad is looking over him. So I just, I'm a huge sports fan, as you can see, with the World Series championship and all that. But I also design merchandise, and we have a new player named Mantha. He scored 4 goals in his first 4 games, one in each game. Never happened before in Capitals history. So I'm a huge Manta Ray fan. So I decided to make a Mantha Ray shirt. And
I
so
like it.
it's been
I
good
like it.
luck. I've worn it now 2 games. I got it for Monday's show. We're winning today.
There
So
you go.
I'm also wearing Capitals pajamas. So I know I look a little ridiculous, but this is what happens when you're a diehard fan like me. So
Dude, it's sports. I get it.
yeah.
You can't wash that shirt now though.
Yeah, I know.
You've
It
won
won't do that.
twice. You can't wash that
I
shirt.
know, not until they lose. So yeah, so you get it. I'm sure we'll get into your superstitions, or if you have any, with
100%.
Toronto-based sports teams in a little bit. I did want to start off with talking about your history and your background,
Sounds
and
great.
walk you through that journey of your early life through music, get you into how you found Twitch, and then become now on Twitch for, I believe, about a year now. So we're just coming up on it, right?
Yeah, we're coming up on a year. It'll be beginning of June. Will be
Beginning of
1 year
June.
on Twitch.
Wow.
And that's an adventure in and of itself. I did not know about Twitch until about, I would say, just over a year ago. I had heard about it as far as like e-gaming was concerned, and as far as a lot of the leagues and a lot of the teams that were involved in like League of Legends and Fortnite and stuff like that. But it was only like just as COVID-19 and the pandemic was really taking off, and everybody was saying, okay, you've got to stay inside, you've got to isolate, tours are canceled, shows are being postponed. Um, I was literally heading out the door the day it happened. I was supposed to go down to Nashville to do some recording and then head over to the UK to play some shows. And literally got on the phone, and my producer was like, "Yeah, everything's shutting down. I don't know if you're going to be able to get in."
Oh
And
no.
just like that was literally February, March of last year. And so there was this really interesting period of time where I was like, okay, still, music has always been such a big part of my life. And some of my earliest memories of like family time and the feelings of love and joy and community really came from music. My parents would come home from work, they'd put on their favorite songs, their favorite CDs, and we'd literally have dance parties in the family room, just kind of all of us together listening to their favorite songs, listening to some of our favorite songs. And so right away, music took on this whole atmosphere of being together, sharing experiences, and sharing love. And as I got older and I started to find my own music, I knew that I wanted to start playing music and I wanted to start putting things out there. I was always a really shy kid. I was very quiet, very introspective, and music always felt like my way of relating to the world around me, the things that I was feeling, the things that I was going through. And all it took was one song to make me feel better if I was having a bad day, or make me feel that much better if I was having a great day, because it felt like somebody else out there understood what I was going through or what I was thinking and feeling. And then when I wrote my first song, I remember the feeling that I had coming out of that, going, I found a way to take these things that I was thinking about, but felt a little bit shy talking about, felt a little bit unsure about saying out loud, and turning them into something constructive. And I knew at that point that I had to keep writing and putting those songs out there. My biggest goal with any of the songs that I write and any of the albums or singles that I release is that if I can send something out there that one person can grab onto, one person can get something out of, and at the very least feel like they're not alone, they're seen and they're heard, then that's honestly the greatest thing that I could ever ask of any of my songs or any of my albums.
That's amazing. Yeah, well, I know so many people connect to so much of your different music. We'll definitely have you play a couple of songs throughout the night. You know,
Oh,
one
that'd be awesome.
a little bit earlier on when we finish the music section, maybe one after the sports section before we get into some of the fan
For
questions
sure.
as well. So that'd be awesome. Unfortunately, the Rangers just scored, made it 3-1. So the
Ah,
Capitals, the shutout is over for Vitek Vanacek, which is a fun name to say,
there you
and
go.
call him Double V here in Washington. And 18:36 left in the third period. It's tied at a nice score of 69 all in the with 20 seconds left in the first half. Milwaukee has the ball and they shoot and make it. So 15 seconds left to see if Washington can answer that. So those are the
There
live
you go.
sporting events in my life. I didn't bring my other camera out to show all the different cameras and all the
It's
screens that
okay.
are behind Josh in the wall in the man cave. But
There's still a lot of basketball to be played,
there
Robbie. That's
is
only the first quarter. Like there's still a
it's
lot of basketball.
first half. So
First half. Okay.
and
All
they
right.
tie and Bradley Beal ties at 71 all at halftime. So that's
There you go.
an exciting game and a very so the Rangers are out. The Capitals are trying to do playoff positioning, but obviously this Wizards game for playoff positioning. And in our basketball segment, I will talk to you about Toronto, and they're
There you
fighting
go.
for that last spot. So
We're scraping away at it. That's for
yeah,
sure.
both of those teams have been hot at times in the last couple of weeks, but like at times also missing out. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up with that 10th spot, because people don't know the top 10 make the playoffs, and there's a play-in bracket this year. And
Okay.
so through the play-in bracket, they will decide the last two spots. So it's kind of like a mini
Brilliant.
tournament before the playoffs. So it should be interesting. So
It's an exciting way to do it. I haven't heard
yeah.
of them doing that before, so that's a really cool kind of add-on there.
Yeah, they started to do something similar last year, but with modified rules this year. So because of
Got it.
COVID, they felt like they needed to get a couple extra in if the last couple were too close, because they were like, oh, we're doing
Right.
less games. And but in this year, they're like, we're gonna just automatically go with it, and we'll see what happens. And basically, nine will play 10. I think that one team is just out. The other team, you play the loser of the 7-8 game. So the winner of the 7-8 game
Mm.
gets in. The loser of the 7-8 game plays the winner of the
The
9-10
9-10.
game, and that becomes the eighth
Interesting.
place team. So it's kind of a little more March
Interesting.
Madness y.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. But let's get back into the music.
Perfect.
And so you've kind of already talked about it, but so what were some of your biggest musical influences growing up through
Absolutely.
before high school, maybe into high school, and what were you listening to try to gain the love of music that sort of obviously led to what you do now?
So pre-high school, and like really young, we were listening to stuff like the Beach Boys. Springsteen was always a very big part of the household. My dad was in a Springsteen cover band for many years in his life, high school through university, and is still an incredible drummer. And so Bruce Springsteen definitely took like center stage in the music that we listened to in the house. But everything from Neil Young to the Eagles, Jackson Brown. We had a couple Joe Jackson records. We listened to Elvis Costello. My parents had a very eclectic taste in music. Anything that they could relate to, any songs that they liked, they immediately brought to us. And they were also really open with us bringing music to the family as well. So as I started to get older, In Sync, the Backstreet Boys, loved those guys. I bought every record of NSYNC's that came out. I got my entire family into NSYNC. We actually went to go see them live when they came to
Oh, that's
Toronto.
amazing that you
Oh,
saw them, because I was a
love
big
them.
NSYNC fan too, and I got a lot of crap from people that are like big into rock for it. But I was a big Justin Timberlake fan. I liked his solo stuff too, and I love the intersection of rock and pop music. I think that there's actually a lot of fusion, and
Absolutely.
I think people immediately reject pop. At least they did in the 90s. Some people were like, oh, I like Nirvana, I can't like that. I love Nirvana and like Justin Timberlake. I mean, I think it's possible to do.
Absolutely. And
So
it's really funny that you had that experience because what got me interested in rock music, I had another friend who was big into like Nirvana and Black Sabbath and like really heavy stuff. And he was a bass player and had been a bass player for years. And so, kind of at like 13, 14, I was still really into the whole boy band thing. And I still love pop music. Um, but he was kind of giving me some grief on what I was listening to. And I would send it back to him. And then one night he's like, okay, I need to open your eyes to music. And I'm going like, okay, here we go. Because I want you to come and see my friend's band play. They're playing at a club downtown. They were having like an underage night. And I was like, okay, I'll come, but I can't promise you that I'm going to like hop on the bandwagon of guitar music all of a sudden. And so I'm there and I'm chatting with a couple of our mutual friends. And I remember talking to one of his friends, and think her name was Amy, and she was absolutely beautiful. We were having this wonderful conversation, and then all of a sudden, his friend's band goes on, and they start playing "Shook Me All Night Long" by AC/DC,
Nice.
and I was gone. Cannot tell you what the rest of the conversation was. All of a sudden, everything went into that music. And I saw those guys standing up on stage. I saw the way that the music was melding with each other. I saw the way that they were playing with each other. And just that energy and that vibe and the way that it all sounded. I went home that night and said, I got to learn how to do this. I got to learn how to play the guitar. And I started diving into all of the music that my parents had listened to when I was younger, but also all of the slightly heavier stuff that started to come out like late 90s, early 2000s. And so my musical taste ranges, and I find inspiration in everything from like Green Day and the Foo Fighters to Bob Dylan and Bruce Springsteen and kind of everything in between. And the way that I kind of look at genre or music is that if I can connect with what the song is talking about, the lyrics, if I can connect with the melody, if it makes me feel something, that's how I know I've stumbled onto a good song. I can, we can figure out genre and all that stuff after, but if it's hitting you and if it's resonating with you, that's how you know you've landed on something special.
Yeah, for sure. I want to give a couple of quick little shout outs and then we'll continue the
Absolutely.
interview because there's so many great people that I know that you really like in the thing. And we don't have alerts and stuff popping up. I, first of all, thought that this was going to push me to affiliate. So I was not expecting to become affiliate earlier today. But Maddie just subbed right this at tier 2
Maddie,
because she loves Charizard, and my emotes are going to be Charizard emotes. So they're not active yet, but I'm going to put them on the screen so people can see it. Josh can't see it right now, but
that's
I
a good
showed him the
choice,
graphic.
Maddie.
And so people can see a little bit of what they did. I see Carly is also subscribed. We have DC's People Champ gifting out 5 tier 1 subs. So
What?
Champ, I really appreciate you.
Legend.
And he's part of the True No Spots podcast group, and he's on my Wizards Roundtable every week. So I really appreciate
Right on.
him. And I actually designed his first emote, so it's in there. So it's cool. I've designed his emote, Carly's emote. I like seeing them in the chat. And thank you again for everyone for all the follows. So Quantum, Peter, and then Lisa Warren just gave me 100 bits. I think that's maybe the first bits I've ever gotten. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that as well. So
thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, you guys are all great. We got Lucky in there. We've got Ryan, that E flat guy, and so many others in chat. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in and being a part of this first stream of this new concept I had. And Josh was so nice to be a part of it with me, and I really appreciate that a lot.
Cheers,
and
man.
So when did you start performing music for others? That's, I guess, yeah.
That's a really good question, and up for debate for some people, for sure. Because there's the first time that I played for somebody that wasn't like a close friend of mine, and then there was the first time that I got up on stage and actually performed for a crowd of people.
Right. Tell both stories. I think they'll both be interesting.
There you go. Well, we got the time.
Yeah.
So I had started learning how to play guitar, and I'm one of those guys that believes that everything happens for a reason. Like there is everything, when you look back on it, kind of lines up in life, and I find that fascinating. And this was a really cool example of that. My first guitar teacher, I wanted to be Slash. Like I went in and I'm like, I got the long curly hair, like give me a top hat, let's do this. And right away he was like, before I teach you how to solo and before I teach you scales, I want to teach you how to play chords, because if you can play chords, then you'll be able to do both rhythm. And he had a whole system, and I was a little bit bummed out about it at first, but I went along with it because I wanted to learn how to play. So the first song he teaches me how to play is Wonderwall.
Mm-hmm.
I go to camp that summer. I'm sitting down with a couple of my friends and I'm strumming through the chords. And all of a sudden, this slightly older counselor comes and sits right in between my friends, right in front of me. And she goes, "What are you playing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm feeling all confident now." I'm like, "It's Wonderwall by Oasis." She goes, "Oh, I love that song." My friends are getting all excited. I'm like, "Yeah, this is going real well." And then she goes, "Can you sing it for me?" And my heart just sinks into my feet. I'm like, "I've never sung for anybody that wasn't my shampoo bottle. What am I supposed to do here?" And I took a second and I was like, "Okay, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take." Wayne
Oh,
Gretzky.
Wayne Gretzky, yeah.
Absolutely. Got to give you got to
Yeah,
give
he's
props to the
he's
great one,
the great one is the great one for a reason.
Absolutely. And so I sit there and I go, "Okay, let's do this." And I played the song over again and I sang it for the first time. I remember after we were all silent for a couple seconds and she said, "You didn't tell me you were a singer." I said, "I didn't know I was a singer." And from that point on, I was like, "Okay, I want to explore this singing thing and see like what my voice can do." And as I started to become more comfortable singing, that's when I started to write songs. And when
Did,
those
did you ever go to any sort of vocal coach, or I know you said you went to
Absolutely.
guitar? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer that you can't know enough about what you love doing, what you're passionate about. There's always room for growth. There's always room to learn things. And so I've had a number of different like vocal coaches and or vocal like techniques that I do to warm up or to just experiment with different sounds that I can get out of my voice. And I do the same thing for guitar playing. I've never had any like formal education for that stuff. I've taken lessons with different people. I've taken different vocal coaching sessions, but never went to school for like vocal performance or music theory or anything like that. Which in a really interesting way has helped a lot with the songwriting. I feel that there's like a slight fearlessness and a slight adventurousness that I developed through not knowing the right way to do things, that kind of seep their way into my songs that I don't know that I would have stumbled upon if I had kind of known the process to the fullest extent. But yeah, that was the first time I'd ever really sung for anybody. And then a couple years later, after I had written a couple songs and at camp, I started to play around for small groups of people at camp and for like my cabin and whatnot. And a buddy of mine was hosting a counselor wide talent show at the end of the summer. He doesn't tell me that he signs me up for the talent show. And then that night, like right before the thing starts, tells me, "Hey, by the way, you're going to play tonight and you're going on last."
Oh wow.
And so I had to sit through like it was like an hour and a half that I was sitting there just like sweating bullets
Yeah.
because I had never done anything like this before. And they call my name and I'm shaking. And I get up on stage and I'm like, "Okay,
How old were you again at this point?
this was, oh, I was like 15, 16, I
Wow.
think at this point."
Yeah.
And I go, "Okay, well, like I really like the Plain White Tees song, so let's do that one." And I started playing "Hey There, Delilah,"
Mm-hmm. Great song.
and the place is silent as I'm playing this. And like I'm a very big overthinker. So like all of these thoughts are going through my mind as I'm like, "Do they like it? Like it's really quiet in here. I don't know what's going on. Just keep playing. Just keep playing. Okay, is this going well? I don't know. It's really quiet in here." And then I finished the song and I remember the place just went up.
Oh
And
wow.
I had never I in my wildest dreams never expected a reception like that.
That's amazing.
And I got off stage and I was like, "I need to do that again. I need to feel that again." And yeah, I was bit by the performance bug at that
Yeah.
night and never stopped.
So through high school, did you wrote your first album while you were in college, or when did you write your first album?
So I wrote my first, I was writing songs during high school.
Hmm.
But again, I was still a very more thoughtful, shy, kind of quiet person. So I didn't really like come into high school being the music guy, and I didn't share a lot of that music stuff out like in high school. For some reason, camp for me was that environment where I felt like I could express myself in that way and kind of be more of who I was. So a lot of that stuff ended up happening at camp as far as performing and as far as finding my voice.
Mhm.
But once I had found it, I was doing a lot of writing like after school and in different like social settings away from school. So Smell the Roses, the first song I ever wrote, I wrote during high school, like my last year of high school. And that was the first song that I really credit as being start to finish a fully formed song and a fully formed idea.
That's
And
awesome.
that was the song that kind of set me on a completely different path of songwriting and what I could do with words and with melodies.
So did you write that first album then when you were in college, like finish it? Yeah.
Yep.
Or yeah. And
Uh,
how is that process of recording that and dealing with college?
it was a really interesting time. And at the same time, it was both one of the most challenging and one of the most rewarding times in my life because I had gone into college going, okay, I'm going to go into business school and I'm going to learn business. And I got pre-accepted into basically like a master's program in business that takes after the Harvard like case method.
Mhm.
So it was kind of like the Harvard of Canada. It's kind of how this school was billed to us when we were coming out of high school. And I got pre-accepted out of high school, which meant that you do the first 2 years in the regular school, and then if your grades were up to par, you would then spend year 3, 4, you'd do an extra year, and you'd come out with an MBA,
Oh, that's
basically.
nice. Yeah, it's cool.
And so I went into first year studying business, and I was doing really well in the courses, but I was miserable.
Mm.
There was something missing in my life, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out what it was. And then there was one day where I sat down and started playing my guitar, like in my dorm room. And those feelings, that creativity, that starting from just an idea and turning something into something constructive, all of that stuff came flooding back to me. And I was like, I need more of this in my life. This is what I want to do. I'm missing that kind of passion studying business. And I had no idea how you would get into the music business and what that would look like. I just knew that I wanted to play music. And so I came back to Toronto and actually played a show with a couple of friends. And somebody at the event was like, hey, I really like your stuff. Do you have a demo? And so I had like a rough demo that I had made in a friend's basement kind of thing. And I gave it to him. And as I'm debating on what to do with the rest of my life after college,
How many songs are in your demo? I'm just curious. How
oh, there
many?
were like 3.
Three. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was like there was some really rough, some really rough cuts.
Did
There was,
anything make it onto like future
oh
albums?
yeah, for sure. Like
Yeah.
the songs on there eventually became a lot of the main songs on the first Josh record.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that was really cool to see that transition and get to actually work on the songs a little bit more. But at the time, they were just kind of rough recordings of some of the ideas that I had had. And I'm sitting in my dorm room. I'm trying to figure out like, okay, I've got like half an hour before class. And what am I going to do with this? Am I going to stay here? Am I going to study something else? Like what? And I get a call. And this guy goes, hey, you gave me your CD. It's got your number on it. Like I wanted to tell you I really liked your stuff and I hope you don't mind. I gave it to a producer friend of mine. And he doesn't tell me who this guy is, but says he wants to meet you. So I came back to Toronto that weekend and I met up with this guy and his producer friend at a coffee house. The producer ended up being Terry Brown, who produced all of Rush's stuff going up to the Signals tour. He produced Cutting Crew, a lot of like really, really popular 80s bands. And even before that, was working as a sound engineer in London. Got to work with Hendrix, the Stones. Like this guy's got a rap sheet, miles long. And he goes, I really like your stuff. I'd love to record with you, but it's going to be kind of hard if you're going to school 2.5 hours, 3-hour train ride from Toronto. It's going to be kind of difficult for us to record. And so I had this chance, and I was like, I need to take this. And so I finished the rest of the year at Western. I transferred to the University of Toronto so that I could be back in Toronto, and started doing music full time. And that latter half of the year that I had made that choice to commit to music and commit to what was in my heart and what I was really passionate about, all of a sudden these songs just started to flood out of me. And it was like I had tapped into something, just being open to that inspiration, being open to that journey.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Part of me wants, I was going to originally do a song after we tell your whole story, but part of me thinks that maybe we should play something from that album just so people could hear that time period in your life. So why don't we do a music break sort of in the middle of the song section, and then we'll come back and talk about your journey through Twitch. I'm going to take my camera off so that way people can experience it in full screen. Let me just put on Josh's thing, and we'll be right back. But yeah, just take it away.
So this is one of the songs, or one of the first songs that I wrote after that period that I had decided, okay, I'm going to pursue music. I'm going to see where this journey goes and see where this takes me. Because in a lot of ways, I felt like there was a part of my life that had just ended, but there was this new part of my life that was just beginning. So this song's called Start Again. Racing for the exits, trying to grab what I can't reach, searching for some means to meet the end, but missing everything that comes between. Looking out for angels, hoping for someone to bring me peace, searching everywhere for my salvation, everywhere except in me. And the one thing that I've learned is life's not always full of pain. Saturdays are shit shows, and sometimes lead to shame. Just 'cause you feel doesn't mean you'll stay that way. 'Cause Sundays break the skyline, you can start your life again. When their eyes begin to linger, they just want to see you melt. But who cares how they see you? 'Cause life's about how you see yourself. And the one thing that I've learned is life's not always full of pain. Saturdays are shit shows, and sometimes lead to shame. Just 'cause you feel broken doesn't mean you'll stay that way. Sundays break the skyline, you can start your life again. You can start your life again. Start your life again. You can start your life again. Keep pushing a little longer, 'cause in the end you'll be stronger. Hold on to your dreams, stop asking and believe. you'll feel more like yourself.
Well done, well done. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna have to do a do-si-do here with the switching cameras again.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I think you're gonna have to turn off your camera though and turn it back on. There you go.
Right on.
All right, there we go. Thank you. That was fantastic. The chat was actually asking for a scoring update, so I was giving it to them in chat, but they were going crazy for it. The Wizards are still up 3-1, empty net, 3 minutes left in the third, so I'm pretty happy over here. The Wizards were trying to make a run of it. They had fallen behind, but they're kind of clawing their way back. So that's really great. But I really want to thank everyone in chat. The Panda, we got my wife Liz is in chat. We got CT, Quantum, Carly, Maddie Acoustic, and Peter is my newest mod. So
there you go.
Oh, interesting. Peter's got 10 pounds on the Wizards to lose and the Caps to win. That's actually the most likely scenario. So I think you're doing pretty well right now, Peter. Although I still want the Caps to win. But I'm sure Josh, who has those Raptors trying to fight for that spot, might be disagreeing with me on that one.
I mean, you know.
It would help.
It would help. It would definitely help the Raptors.
Right. Yeah, definitely. 2 weeks in a row, we're doing this rivalry thing. So right now, the Raptors and the Wizards are rivals. Unfortunately, hockey, people don't know, the divisions are locked. So the North Division doesn't play the East at all this year. Toronto's doing phenomenal. They're in the first place over there in the North. We'll get into sports in a little bit. I'm obviously anxious to talk about it, but
absolutely.
But let's. That's a great song. Thank you for playing it. And but let's walk through, like, how do you get from there to finishing school and writing like future albums and then going on tour?
I always say that the best source of inspiration for songwriting is living life. All of the songs that I've written are about personal experiences or the experiences people very close to me have gone through. The things that we're all feeling, we're all experiencing on a physical level, or the thoughts that we're having at any given moment. And the best way to have a whole bunch of that input coming at you from different directions is living life. And so when I transferred out of that business school and went to the University of Toronto, I started studying English Lit because I wanted to fully understand what I could do with words and how, not just what words meant, but how words meant, and how I could kind of shift things to make words mean something different. And as I was doing that, I was also touring full time. So I was very lucky that my professors throughout my time at university were very understanding, because there would be times where I'd go to them and say, hey, listen, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks or a month on the road. But I'd be happy to take the exams ahead of time, and I'll keep up with the readings and the notes. And they were very supportive of what I was doing. Did you score?
Yes. If people don't know, I have a wireless goal horn that tends to go off early. They pull the empty netter. Obviously, everyone's trying to get us to TJ Oshie. TJ Oshie throws the puck down the ice, and he gets a hat trick.
Right on.
So, the guy we were talking about early on, somewhere obviously his dad, I'm getting chills thinking about it. Somewhere his dad is looking down on him.
Is that a hat trick for him tonight?
It's a hat trick for him.
Nice.
And on the first game back after losing his dad. So really emotional moment. I don't want to break up, but like it's his 4th career hat trick, and his just an amazing moment for him. And
his dad's right there with him.
Thank you, New York, for pulling your goalie. So I appreciate that. So anyway, it's sports have such interesting moments, that make up them, and such 100%. Human moments. Unfortunately, the Rangers just got one back. 1:16 left, and now it's 4-2. So it's good that he got that goal to give him a little insurance.
There you go.
But let's get back into your story about how sort of finished college and you're starting to write these albums and you're starting to go on tour. Can you describe what touring is like, and for people that don't know that experience,
Absolutely.
what some of your first tours and some of the things you found were interesting or exciting about them?
So yeah, the first tour that I went on was actually a tour that started in I believe it was Edinburgh, Scotland. Or no, sorry, it was Glenrothes, Scotland. So we flew from Toronto to London. We took the red eye, and then we got on a plane to fly to, I think the closest city was Edinburgh, and then we drove from Edinburgh to Glenrothes. And when we got up there, I was really young, and I looked at my dad and I was like, "This is a completely different country. Like, am I going to be able to understand everybody here? Like, I know everybody speaks English, but am I going to be able to understand the accents? Like, what if they're asking me a question and I'm not able to?" These are all of the things that I'm thinking about, it being my first tour and me just like, again, being this like quiet kid from Toronto that loves music, going over to the UK, going like, am I going to be able to like make a connection with these people? What is that going to be like? And I remember getting into the car I was going to drive us, and the guy had one of the thickest accents I had ever heard. And I just turned to my dad and I was like, "You see, I'm not going to be able to understand them." And like freaking out, like having a
Yeah.
full on panic attack in the car. And we get to the venue, and the opening band, or like the headline band rather, were so nice. Like they were like, "Hey, like come and hang out with us. We'll introduce you to the guys. Anything you need, let us know." And we really became like, when you're on the road with a group of guys, and a group of people that are so nice and genuinely love what they're doing, you can't help but develop this family like atmosphere. And that's really what it was, a group called the Soldiers, and that's really what they did. The entire group, whether you were working as a sound engineer, whether you were part of the band, whether you were one of the side musicians, everybody was part of the family. Everybody was included in all of this stuff. And it was great because we would hang out during the day before the show. Um, like we would do radio interviews and stuff like that in the morning. So it was an early wake up. You'd drive to the next city. You'd go and talk to a radio station. You'd do like a morning show thing. Then you'd potentially do like a lunchtime drive time thing and an afternoon show. Then after that, you go and do sound check. And after everybody's done sound check, you usually have like an hour and a bit before the opening act goes on. So we'd all go to the pub. We'd hang out for a bit. And then I would go on and play these shows. And there would be a little bit of time in between where I would then go out and meet people before the headline act went on. And they were really gracious in giving me that time to go out and meet all of the people that were resonating with the music. And I remember the first night playing the show, and again, like having never experienced lag like this ever. This is the first time that I had been that far away from home, kind of thing, taking a red eye flight to get there. I was exhausted after the show, and I was like, I don't even know how well I did. Like, I think it was good, but I'm not sure. And again, overthinking. So I'm just like running through multiple scenarios in my head, like I'm the CIA. And they're like, "Okay, it's time for you to go out to the merch table and like meet everybody." And I'm thinking like, "Oh, cool. Like, I'll probably go out and there'll be, a couple people that I'll get to hang out with and talk to. I'm sure they enjoyed it." And I walked out there and I see this huge line of people,
Oh wow.
and I'm going like, "What are they?" Is one of the guys from I immediately assume one of the guys from the Soldiers must be standing over there, or they're like trying to get merch, or maybe that's like where they get food. I don't really know. But I see this huge line and I'm like, I wonder what they're lining up for. And then all of a sudden, somebody turns around and sees that I'm walking out of the thing and goes, "Oh my God, there he is." And everybody just kind of comes over. It was like, "Oh my God, that was great. We really enjoyed it." And just the conversations that perpetuated, and just hearing how these people were resonating with the music, there is no feeling like hearing somebody tell you what they got out of your song. I was having a really tough day, And then I heard Start Again, and it made me think of that time in my life when, or I was having a really, really rough moment with my friend. And then I heard your song, People in the Room, and it really made me feel like I was heard. All of these things started to pour out, and it was so beautifully overwhelming. And every night getting to talk to people like that, that was my favorite part of the tour. And one of my favorite parts about Twitch is that after I play these songs, I get to talk to everybody in the chat. I get to talk to everybody that's experiencing that song, sometimes for the first time. And I get to relive that moment of me writing it for the first time, and relive those moments of, I know what I wrote the song about, but what are you getting out of it? What does it mean to you? And it creates this whole other life for the music. And I absolutely love that about music.
Yeah,
That's what keeps it going.
I think it's so interesting thinking about how everyone has a different story, and when they're in Twitch chat, they like to share their stories, or
Oh,
sometimes they
amazing.
don't, but they have all these different emotions and feelings and resonating. And it must be so cool to know people all around the world are watching us right now, right? And they're watching your show every day.
Right.
And I think it's great that you do a bunch of different times throughout the week, so
Oh,
that way
thank you.
you can really catch people wherever they are, because in Europe, they, the times are very different, in Asia, and
For
so
sure.
I think it's cool that people join these chats during the workday in the United States, from all over the world, some in the middle of the night, some the afternoon, and it's just really kind of cool and a special way to bring people together, especially in a time where, I mean, I went to tons of concerts. I've never played music other than in Rock Band, for me, it's about this experience, about going to concerts with friends and family. And I used to do 4 or 5 concerts a
That's awesome.
year, and I got super lucky. Washington D.C. is a great music scene. Like almost
Seems like it, yeah.
every tour comes kind of through here. It hits New York and Philadelphia and Toronto, and that whole corridor. And so I'm so lucky to grow up with that. But I was missing it terribly, and I got into Twitch music long before the pandemic, a couple of years back, with Dr. Ong, who's an
Oh,
amazing
nice.
musician out of Australia. And he's got a PhD in it, and he can play thousands of
Oh,
songs off the
that's
top of his
awesome.
head, and has like hundreds of keyboards. And I was like, wow, this guy's got 40 keyboards in every instrument, and will like synth them all together and create
Oh,
these
that's cool.
loops over 30 minutes. And I'm just like, holy moly, this is magic, right? And so I got drawn into that, and into Corny Ears and many others. And then Mike Shinoda came over with the when the pandemic happened, and then so many others joined in that time period. And just watching the growth of your channel, and watch Carly and a bunch of these other great people, and Hattie, and there's
Mm.
just so many, Ryan E. Flat Guy, there's many that are in chat. It's cool that everyone does their own thing. You've got Jazzy composing stuff, you've got some people singing,
100%.
you got guitar, and it's just what an incredible community. And then the people go from one chat to the next, and you run into the same people, and it really feels like you're going to a concert with these people. And and I desperately needed that sort of sense of connection, especially in a time where I can't even hug my own friends. And so
100%.
I think that that's really kind of special. All right, so let's walk through. You've now gone on some tours. The later albums, how did those come to be? And talk about that sort of time period you briefly did at the beginning, leading up into Twitch, and maybe your first couple of months into that.
Definitely. Coming out of that first record, um, I had just started my songwriting journey, and that was kind of the tail end of getting more comfortable telling stories and figuring out what stories I wanted to tell. And then for the second album, I kind of went, okay, I have all of these stories, and I have all of these different like smatterings of subject matter. What do I want to leave behind? What is my goal with this? And you touched on it beautifully, Robbie, that I really believe that when words fail, that's when music comes in. And in some of the most challenging and some of the most incredible moments of change in history, it's the artists the composers, the musicians, the songwriters, the storytellers that are at the forefront of that change and that movement. They're telling the stories of the people that want to be heard, want to be seen. And with that in mind, and looking at guys like Springsteen talking about the people that he grew up witnessing in New Jersey in a factory town, Bob Dylan talking about the times they are changing at a moment in history where that could not have been a more radically different and eclectic change at that time from what was to what it became in the 60s. Looking at the Beatles and the way that they changed the conversation about spirituality and the way that they added that into their songs. Music has always had this way, at least in my opinion, of being able to express the things that we find difficult to express in everyday life. But it creates that sense of community and that sense of family, because no matter where you are, no matter what language you speak, you feel it. When you hear your favorite song, you feel it. And when you see other people feeling the same thing, you get that sense of we're connected. You know, we're experiencing that same thing. And that's why live music, I love going to concerts, like you were saying, Robbie, because you and however many hundreds of thousands of other people are experiencing the exact same moment, probably experiencing hundreds of thousands of different things. But that joint moment of we're all listening to this song, we're all getting something out of it, it unites us, it binds us in a way that a lot of other things may not. And actually, sports is a great example of that too, bringing people together that otherwise probably and possibly wouldn't have anything in common. But you have your team, you have your songs that are connected with those teams. Music has always had that kind of thing for me, and I've going to those concerts, seeing that, I knew that I wanted to approach that second record and go, okay, what messages and what stories do I want to tell? What do I want to put out there in the world? What conversations do I want to start?
Yeah, real quickly. So I wanted to speak to a couple of things you were talking about. So
Absolutely.
for me, when I listen to you play Miracle, for example, which is one of my favorite Vertical Horizon songs, it can mean so many different things depending on my mood and situation. And I'm sure it means something completely different to everybody listening. Maybe some people
100%.
had never even heard that song before, right? And but I remember, you played it on a night, my father-in-law was going to have surgery, or just coming out of it, and it was so touching. And I also play it in honor of our hopefully daughter to be Zara. And so for me, it's both could be a moment of joy and worry and all these things that you couldn't necessarily express in words, to go to what you're saying, but in music, like, it means so much to me at different times of my life, but it always resonates, right? And it's kind of like, I think of our good friend, from Hawaii, like Luke. They always say,
Absolutely.
they have these great sayings, and that can mean multiple things, whether aloha, love, it could mean hello, it could mean goodbye. And I love that, right? And I think music can mean hello, goodbye, I love you, sadness, everything, in any situation. And so I think that's part of what relates to so many different people. And but I think I love your point about sports, because the person I do my podcast with, I never probably would have met. I would have never talked to him. He wrote a blog. I had a Facebook group. He posted his blog on the Facebook group. He said, I have an opportunity on a radio station, or like a online streaming platform. Do you want to do it? And I said, sure. And then 5 years later, I've done 224 shows with him, right? But these from vastly different backgrounds, but just the best and the sweetest guy. And I think that music and sports definitely connects people that may not necessarily know that they would have these common bonds.
100%. And that's so awesome too, that like sports was the thing that brought you all together. That's incredible.
So, all right, we got the second album, going. You've got sort of putting these emotions, into it, that you've been able to gain from these experiences, and you've been able to. Is it 4 albums now that you've done?
It's three.
Three
Yeah,
albums, yeah,
three
3 albums.
albums.
Yeah, so they each sound vastly different, because they're obviously different parts of your life, but they've got such great energy to them.
Thank you.
And So I wanted to have you play one more song, and then we're going to get into the sports side of things and then the fan
Perfect.
questions as well. I know I only got you for another maybe 30, 40 minutes. I want to be
Hey, we're good,
cognizant
man.
cognizant of your time. I know it's already almost 10 o'clock here on the East Coast, but I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. So I had a request. So I was going to pick a song that I really like.
Go for it.
I've always really liked Midnight Mustang. I think it's a really interesting song. I was wondering, you've told me the story before, but for those who haven't heard it, I was wondering if you could maybe share the story of Midnight Mustang and then play it
Absolutely.
for us. That'd be great.
So Midnight Mustang kind of came out of an experience that I had in Denver, Colorado. So a buddy of mine lives out in Colorado, and I was on tour with my band, and he calls me and he goes, "Hey, I know your birthday's coming up. Kings of Leon are going to come and play the Red Rocks." And I love Kings of Leon. I have always wanted to go see a concert at Red Rocks. And the fact that both of those things were happening at the same time, I was like, that's got to happen. So I found a way, like I got a flight out to Denver to meet him. And we basically spent that entire day getting ready for the concert and like hanging out, catching up. It was great. Sun in the sky, beautiful. We get to Red Rocks and it starts raining. And I'm like, man, we're going to stick this out. Like, we're going to watch this show because I came to see the Red Rock. Like, I came to this venue, came to see Kings of Leon at the Red Rocks. This is happening. And he's like, I'm right there with you. The opening act comes on and it starts snowing. And we're standing there. This is like beginning of October. So none of us have any like winter clothing on. We're just standing there in the snow. But something about that experience, that like clear defiance of, I see you, Mother Nature, but I'm staying here and we're going to watch this show and this show's going to be amazing. Living your life on your terms, doing what you want to do in that moment because you feel like that's the right thing to do. All of those feelings started to come up in me. I felt like we were warriors in that moment. We're battling the elements here. We are gonna watch this concert outside in the elements, and it's gonna be freaking amazing. And it was unbelievable. One of the best shows I've ever seen. And we basically we stay up that entire night after the show, just hanging out, catching up, talking. And we're all really energized by this experience. And super early the next morning, I leave the hotel to get onto a flight to meet my band in California. And just as we get to the airport, the sun starts to peek over this little hill and it shines right down on this statue. And this statue is of a Mustang rearing. And in that moment, all of those feelings, all of that energy that I was feeling the night before leading into that morning, all of the stuff that I was just talking about, those feelings of freedom, living your life to the fullest, like taking the bull by the horns and really deciding what it means for you. All of that stuff came up. And it was in that moment that I saw the statue that I came up with the title. Wrote the chorus before I even got out of the car, wrote the rest of the song on the plane ride, got back home to Toronto, and I went to my brothers Ryan and Matt and I said, I think I got something here. This is called Midnight Mustang. You want to work on this with me? So here it is. This town took more from us than we had ever made. Broken promises, broken streets, broken homes we couldn't save. Are we prisoners of circumstance? Are we prisoners of our own lies? All the stories that we tell ourselves bind us to the wrong and right. I wanna live like a midnight Mustang, babe, I wanna be free. I wanna roam where the wind don't whisper, where the sky's on fire and the poets scream. I wanna live like a midnight Mustang, babe, I wanna be free. Where the only ties are the thin white lines, my road, my home, my destiny. Past Past the point where the hourglass means anything but time. And with every grain we don't grow old, we just grow more alive. Apart from the shadows of city lights and the darkness that fills up, swallows the night and the stars. If you can't see the light, how do you know who you really are? I wanna live like a midnight Mustang, babe, I wanna be free. I wanna roam where the wind don't whisper, where the sky's on fire and the poets scream. I wanna live like a midnight Mustang, babe, I wanna be free. Where the only ties are the thin white lines, my road, my home, my destiny. So run with me, run with me. I wanna live like a midnight Mustang, babe, I wanna be free. I wanna roam where the wind don't whisper, where the sky's on fire and the poets scream. I wanna live like a midnight Mustang, babe, I wanna be free. I wanna roam where the wind don't whisper, where the sky's on fire and the poets scream. I wanna live like a midnight Mustang, babe, I wanna be free. Where the only ties are the thin white lines, my road, my home, my destiny. So run with me, run with me. Oh, I wanna live. Oh, I want to live. So run with me, run with me. Oh, I wanna live. Oh, I wanna live. So run with me, run with me. That was Midnight Mustang.
That's amazing. That's amazing. All right.
Thank you, Robbie.
So, all right, we're gonna do the do-si-do one more time with the camera, and then
No problem.
while we do that, I'll give a scoring update because people are asking about that. The Brody's on a roll. So people don't know who Brody is. It's Russell Westbrook, who's a walking triple-double machine, and he's got 24 points, 11 rebounds, and 13 assists. And there's still 9 minutes left in the game. And then Bradley Beal has 31 points. The Wizards just took, I believe, a 106 to 103 lead. So they're now up 3, 9 minutes left. Bertans is playing well, a lot of good play all around. We're going to get into sports talk in just a second, but let's finish the journey. You get to Twitch. Talk about the journey of, you sort of found, how did you find Twitch? What was your first thing that you found on Twitch?
So the first thing I found on Twitch was the gaming streams. I think the first stream that I went into was actually a Dungeons and Dragons like walkthrough, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, nice.
Saw a couple League of Legends stuff, and I was like, okay, this is really neat. Like, and then a buddy of mine was like, hey, have you heard of this new thing like music on Twitch? I said, are they doing live music on Twitch? He says, yeah. And he sent me this article to like a course that taught, you know, how to go on Twitch and like gave you pointers. So I was reading through this stuff and I was like, this sounds really cool. And like, again, concerts and all of the stuff that I loved about playing music, all of that stuff was postponed. So I was like, how am I still going to be able to foster that sense of community and continue to start those conversations and be a part of that global conversation through music? Twitch. And so I figured out how to get on Twitch and met some of the most incredible people I have ever met in my entire life. Like Robbie, people like yourself, people like Peter and Elena and Maddie and Jazzy. And I mean, all of these people coming into the streams, not just enjoying the music, but like actually getting to know them as people, getting to know you as a person, getting to be a part of your life. It's exactly why I got into music in the first place, is to be able to make connections with people, to be able to foster that sense of community and togetherness, and to spread that kind of energy through the world. And honestly, the way that Twitch, the way that the Turkey's Twitch fam works, and the way that everybody is so kind and compassionate in the chat is just so incredibly inspiring. And we've got people there from all over the world, completely different time zones, speaking completely different languages, but everybody finds a way to connect with each other, and everybody finds a way to boost each other up, to be there for each other when things aren't working out for somebody. Like, everybody's there with all of the love that they can spread. And that's that has inspired so many songs and so many incredible moments for me as a performer, and it's changed the way that I look at performance. It's changed the way that I see music moving forward, because if this is what we can do on Twitch, and this is what we can do in a platform across the world, sharing something that we enjoy doing, we can bring this energy wherever we go,
Yeah.
sharing in that feeling of music and community and spreading that vibe through the world. Like, imagine the world that we can create with that being the place that we're leading from.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think about what the advantages that front page can give to creators of all different types of mediums. But I watch on Mike Shinoda, he'll jump from like 1,000, like 8,000 people, and they're like, oh wow. I mean, you can do production streams, you can do video game streams, you can chat about sports. And by the way, the Bucks took a 109, 108 lead with 8:21
Oh,
left. So
jeez.
so it's very back and forth. But it's just you can find your passion and do it here. I love Twitch. I love being in chat. I actually pulled the podcast back from Twitch because I thought, oh, it's only going to be DC people that care about it. I'll focus on the Facebook. But I really have seen that the people that are here are what makes Twitch special. And so,
100%.
making those friends, as you're talking about, in your chats, and then, we raid with different people, and you bring that love somewhere else. It's really, I was in Garrett's stream earlier and watching you guys come in and making his day. And he went from, 6 or 7 regulars to now 100 people watching him just jam out. And it's so inspiring, right? So I guess one of my questions is, do you remember some of the first raiders who rated your channel, that sort of got you
Absolutely.
going? So who are some of those people?
I will never forget, Melissa Lamb was
Oh
one of
wow,
the first people that raided into my channel, and that
she's
was,
phenomenal. If people don't
oh,
know Melissa Lamb, she
so
is
good.
great piano player, great singer songwriter. She actually does a song with Hattie that's phenomenal called "Give,"
Unbelievable.
which is a great track. I highly recommend people can check that on Apple Music or whatever streaming platform. But that's an amazing first person. Do you remember, like, was it like 100 people? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, it was like 100 something, and
Yeah,
I was like totally caught off guard. This was like maybe a month into streaming, and that was just like the craziest thing ever. And I remember playing for these people, and that was absolutely incredible. Um, we got a raid from Just Joe as
mm-hmm.
well,
Yeah,
and that was amazing. And Joe has been such an incredible uh, Turkey's Twitch family member and supporter of the channel. Like, one of the nicest and most salt of the earth guys that I've ever met.
yeah.
And so, like, very,
That's
very grateful for him as well.
That's so amazing. I love that, everyone raids each other. You guys raid Carly, and then people
Beautiful.
raid, it's just such a, people try to raid each other back for, doing it. It's a really cool cyclical thing. One of the coolest experiences I saw was KR doing a 24-hour stream where you
Yep.
raided him, and then he went on, and I was like, KR, I got to go to bed. It's midnight. I'll hopefully catch your next stream. I left it on lurk for him, right? All
Right.
night. I come down the next day. He's still on at 7 in the
Oh
morning.
yeah.
And I listened to him I was like, well, I guess I'm still listening to that same stream that I said I was going to miss. And then listened for 3 more hours and then he rated you later. So it all like
So funny.
came full circle, which was and then we were like, people were doing reconnaissance to make sure that you had enough songs left in your song list. So you had enough time to raid you. It was just, it's so funny watching
Brilliant.
like, Twitch and the behind the scenes. And it's just such a really cool experience. And I mean, some really crazy things happen. Like I remember modding Carly's stream, we had the stock guy come in with like over 1,000
It's
people,
amazing.
and then you've got 1,000 people, and I don't know if it's view bots, I don't know what's going on. It's
Right.
crashing the stream, and I'm like, oh, everyone's just saying pick a stock to pick. I'm like, what does this mean? Like, and
Right.
but then it ends up some of the coolest people, in our streams have come out of that, so they wouldn't maybe have not experienced it, but the stock guy at the end of every stream, he's got a couple thousand people watching. He just sends it to a music streamer that's got no viewers or less viewers or like under 50, and then
Right.
boom, who knows who's going to like that music. So it's just such a cool environment. And so talk about so you've been able to grow on Twitch and you've been able to do a lot of cool things. Has it
Cheers.
inspired some of your music and what you're writing now for the future?
Absolutely. I've been very grateful to meet some incredible like co-writing partners through Twitch as well, and to get to work with some people on songs in that way. It's definitely changed my perception as far as like I'm always surprised at the songs that people pick to go in the song list, and I'm surprised like you've got everything from High School Musical to uh, Stone Sour to Adele, to Neil Young, and like it's all in the same stream, and everybody wants to hear these songs. And they're like, "Oh, I love that tune. Oh, I love that tune as well." And so the songs that I've written in the period of being on Twitch, they've it almost went back to what initially got me into songwriting was just what is the story what does the story want to be? What kind of a song does this story want to be told through? And just really allowing that to take precedence and allowing the stories to form as opposed to trying to come up with a way that that story could be, or going like, I want to write a song about this, which is still great and still, brought some phenomenal songs into my life. But the free flow of Twitch really got me back into that free flow of inspiration, which I'm so grateful for.
Yeah. So I was looking at your stats right now on your streamer song list. So people don't know and don't follow Twitch that are watching this. There's a great application called Streamer Song List, and in it you make requests for songs. And Josh has 329 active songs. Who knows how many he's got hidden behind there? But those are songs that you can request from. I usually do it in groups of 100 because it's hard to like scroll because it'd be a lot of pages, right? So, but he's got Ed Sheeran and the Eagles and Cyndi Lauper and Counting Crows and just such a wide variety. Obviously, a ton of Bruce Springsteen. And I love
Absolutely.
all of your medleys that you do, and it's
Thanks, man.
just there's so much great music out there, and it's cool that people through you can actually win using a lottery system the ability to request a song and then you'll learn it live on stream, and that's really cool because a lot of these songs have been added that way. So the
100%.
the set list grows based on who's in it, which I think is kind of this unique thing about this platform that's super cool. And as you said, different people request different songs every day, so no two concerts are ever even going to be remotely similar. Unlike
Definitely not.
a concert that you would go to, I'm sure that you would have a more standard set list when you go out there and play. Do you think that you will do almost all your music when you go back and play, or do you think that some of these covers will then make an appearance in your performing?
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you asked that question because before I started doing the concerts on Twitch, I was asked by a radio station in the UK to do a monthly concert series with them that we've still got going on. It was called the Sunday Sessions with Get Ready to Rock Radio. And so it started off as a half an hour set. And that was pretty, like half an hour, 45 minutes is pretty standard for like a regular gig kind of thing. If you're not doing like a 3 hour, like you're the only act playing at that bar that night or that venue kind of thing. But we started doing the 30 minutes and then through Twitch started to like do these medleys and figure that out. And then I started to just all of a sudden brought those into the Get Ready to Rock thing. I remember the day that I did it, I was playing with, I think it was Matt and Ryan, my two brothers, and I was like, we were in the middle of Anywhere Love Took Us, one of my originals, and I said, hey guys, just keep this going. And I started to do one of the medleys just to kind of end off the show because I thought this will be fun. And the response that we got from the radio station was so visceral. Like they were like, that was incredible. Like we didn't expect it. We got so many messages about this. We need to do a full hour and like throw in as many of those medleys as you want. And I was like, all right. So
We know you could do a lot of them. You've got like a ton of them in your set list. So I want to give a quick scoring update. Milwaukee 119, Wizards are 112. They have the ball. They're kicking it out for 3 and they make it. So that makes it 119 to 115. Garrison Matthews, beast out there. So again, a 4-point game, 6 minutes left in that game. Very exciting. Anyone who wanted to know the end Capitals score, so you heard the goal horn go off one more time, which means it was a win. We won 4-2, and just watching TJ Oshie fall into Nicholas Backstrom, is my favorite Capital of all time, into his arms and just sob after that win. You know how much that game meant to him. In the standings, it probably didn't mean a whole lot. We're already in the playoffs. Who knows, what matters. But for him and for the team to rally around that, there's been a lot of injuries. Ovechkin's out injured. COVID's hit some of our top players. And we actually had to play a player down today because of another injury. So they actually played for 2 games in a row now against the Rangers. They played a man down going into the game, not including Tom Wilson, who, by the way, I don't know if anyone saw the beginning of this game. There's been 6 fights in just the first 5 minutes because of what Tom Wilson did in the last game. And so he got injured because I guess kept on hitting him or trying to start a fight with him the whole game until he finally got injured and then had to like leave the game. I don't know how injured he was or just how sick he was of just people whacking him and punching him, but just to win a gutsy game like that. I know the Rangers are out of the playoffs, but it still was an emotional game for a lot of reasons. They're checking the score right now, but it is 119, 117, but they're doing a scoring review in that game. So I want to get to a couple of sporting questions and then also a couple of fan questions. Do you have a couple extra minutes if we go a few minutes?
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
I always like to ask the person because, never like to assume. So sports, obviously you're from Toronto.
Yes.
So you're a fan of, I assume, the Raptors.
Huge fan of the Raptors.
The Leafs. And then do you also watch baseball as well?
I do. Yes.
Yeah, so talk about maybe with each one of them. We can start hockey since hockey is my primary sport. Talk about some of your favorite Leafs moments, maybe growing up and how you became a fan of the team, and that would be awesome.
So I remember just kind of getting into high school, and we were making a playoff run. And this was when we had Sundin was still on the team. We had Blake. I think we had Eddie the Eagle in net, but I'm not sure at that point. It was either him or Cujo, and we were making a playoff run. And I remember going to the game with my dad, and we were playing Buffalo. So it was a big game. And we unfortunately lost that game, but the energy of being there with my dad to see that playoff game was really cool because my dad is a huge Leafs fan. He played hockey growing up. And I mean, like any good Canadian, right? You learn how to skate before you can walk. But he loves hockey. And so getting to be there with him and getting to experience the game with him, those are some of my favorite memories of sports. And I remember doing the same thing with my grandfather with the Raptors, like back when Carter was still playing with the Raptors. I remember going to see games with my grandfather, and that was really cool.
That's awesome. I can relate. I mean, some of my very first hockey games, back in 1998, they made a run to the Stanley Cup, and in an early round, my dad got tickets right behind the glass, and they actually lost that game. Brilliant. So similar story. Yeah. And I told Chris Simon, who was a big enforcer at the time, if people don't know, just sort of long hair, similar to what I have right now, just this guy who's just punishing. And I patted him on the back. I was like 12, 13 at the time. And I said, "You'll get him the next time." And he growled at me. And I was so scared because he's like the enforcer guy. And I'm like, oh God, should not have touched him. But that moment sticks out. And then later that year, that playoff run, my dad took me to game 4 of the Stanley Cup.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was against the Detroit Red Wings. And if anyone knows the Red Wings of the '90s, they won 8 straight Stanley Cup games
Unstoppable.
and swept 2 cups in a row. So I actually got to see the cup in person, held up by a red
No
team,
way.
but back when the red team was the road
Right.
team in our building. So it was both like this incredible moment. I was like, oh man, we got so close. Maybe we'll get back there next time, and maybe we'll do it.
100%.
And it took 20 years to get back to the Stanley Cup. But I've been a fan
Oh,
ever since, rooting for that day to come back, and then to get to be able to touch the cup with Liz having our we have a little Ovi jersey that Zach wears, and
that's
she put it on
awesome.
her stomach, and she was so pregnant and stayed outside for hours in the sun. I had an umbrella and a chair, and I was moving it with her on the line, and we just
Oh, that's
barely made
awesome.
it. We were in line till 4 in the afternoon. We started at 9 o'clock, and
Wow.
so many people didn't even get to make it there because it was so much longer than they ever even expected. And talking about how hockey just resonates with such people. To see such a line,
Absolutely.
just to be able to touch that thing is just and it's so cool. In Toronto, you guys actually have, people don't know this, there's actually 3 Stanley Cups. What one of them exists in Toronto, and I've always, it's a dream of mine to make it to Toronto to be able to go see that one. And so I think that's super cool. Have you been to the Hockey Hall of Fame? Have you ever seen?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Hockey Hall of Fame is great. There is the Stanley Cup there that you can see. But it's also really cool to see the history of the game. And you've got sticks and jerseys from some of the best players, like some of the pioneers of the game. And you get to see the equipment that they were using in comparison to the equipment that they're using now. And it's incredible because you've got guys like Bauer who were like stopping howitzers of pucks with like plastic face masks and like hardly any equipment. And they were just brick walls back in the
There
day.
were times that they played without face masks. I know
Yeah,
that people don't realize that now, but
like nothing.
that's crazy. And one of them like played without a face mask for like long into after
Oh
everyone
yeah.
else was doing it. I mean, these guys, I've seen people get knocked out and come back into games, broken things, come back into games. I
Oh,
mean,
for
hockey
sure.
players are a breed unlike even football or any of the other ones.
It's
It's something there. So, we'll talk about it really briefly. There's a big run to the playoffs in the NBA. It's going to be a battle tomorrow.
absolutely
The teams actually play each other. The Raptors have 27 wins. The Wizards currently have 30. It's right now tied 121 all with 4:16 left in this game. So it's this crazy back and forth game. Great drive by Neto. And he got fouled. Milwaukee has the ball, but Toronto's favored in this game. The standings have them right now. Um, Toronto is just on the outside, that 10th position, and but yeah, they're only 3 games back. So this game, that game, they mean a lot. Have you
there
watched
you
any
go.
of this run for Toronto, or have you
I
mostly
haven't
watched?
seen
Yeah,
tons of this run.
yeah.
I was really invested in that playoff run that they made 2 years ago, like the 2019 when they
What an
just,
incredible run that was.
oh my god. And it meant so much for me at the time, not just as a fan of the Raptors and not just as a kid who grew up with the Raptors, um, but I had a buddy who wasn't well at the time, and he was a really big Raptors fan. And going through that playoff season, the Raptors were like the complete underdog. Like, here's the one team from Canada that no one thought would be anywhere near the NBA championship. And they just kept winning. And Kawhi was getting better, but so were the other players. Like Van Vliet was absolutely ridiculous with the threes. Um, Siakam kind of came into his own in that. I don't know. He's kind of been trying to find his rhythm ever since, but Siakam was unbelievable during that playoff season.
I loved watching just a little bit of that
Oh
run
man.
from the States because
Right?
it was so cool to watch all of Canada join behind like a united front and really, because I mean, yes, it's Canada's team, but I don't remember any time where I feel like all of Canada, I mean, they were talking about it more than hockey. And it was such a weird thing because obviously they were in the finals of the
For sure.
NBA, but they haven't made it to the finals in hockey. No Canadian teams made it since I was is it 2003 with Edmonton, or maybe
Yeah.
or it's either them or the Flames. I know that both teams made it in like the
Yeah, they
early
were kind of
2000s.
back to back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But and then the E flat guy Ryan is saying he believes that Craig McTavish was the last player to go without a visor in the NHL, and I think that that's exactly right.
That
So
would
it's a
make
good
sense.
call.
Yeah.
So they're still reviewing this game. Some call on the whether or not it was. I don't know what they're. Oh, they're not. It's a foul. I don't know. It's a weird. But anyway, Milwaukee's up 123 to 121. So they're reviewing the foul right now, I guess. Which I kind of
All
hate the
right.
review thing, but whatever.
Yeah.
It kind
Slows
of
the
slows
game down a
down.
bit.
Yeah, basketball. All right. So let's got a couple of quick questions
Brilliant.
that different fans have submitted. And so
Turkey's Twitch fam coming out in a big way. I like it.
indeed. So Kylie asked, who do you want to collaborate with the most?
Ooh. I have a very vivid dream of getting to sing Born to Run on stage with Bruce Springsteen. It's a very big dream of mine. It's one that I picture almost constantly. Um, Springsteen would definitely be somebody that I would like to collaborate with.
That'd be amazing.
For his songwriting, I think just the way that he tells stories, I would love to collaborate with him. I would also really like to collaborate with Harry Styles.
Oh yeah, that's a good pick.
That is a super talented dude right there. And I mean, the first solo album that he came out with, he literally went into the studio and they wrote the album while they were recording it. Like, that is such an old school rock and roll move. I loved that. And I
It, it,
loved that he
it
was paying
reminds me of like
homage to that.
the Foo Fighters are notorious for doing things like
Yeah.
that. That are like these great. I love Sonic Highways and being able to go to
Oh,
these different experiences and
phenomenal.
yeah. So that's really cool. I got one other question from Kylie. I've got a lot of questions from these people, but I'm going to do a couple for each one of them for
No
time.
worries.
But Kylie also asked, if you were not doing music right now, what do you think your career would be in?
If I wasn't doing music, I think I would have become a teacher.
Oh, great.
I
As
love
someone who
the
worked for a school, I love that answer.
yeah. I always loved the idea of collecting information and then being able to use that information to either inspire action in somebody else or inspire a new way of looking at the world in somebody else or helping that person realize the potential that maybe they didn't see at the time. I always loved that idea. And I had some phenomenal teachers. One in particular that I credit with being the reason that I started to love storytelling because the way that they were so engaging, but also so encouraging and like constantly nudging you forward and trying to get you outside your comfort zone, but giving you that confidence and that courage to do so was really cool.
Yeah, that's I was a teacher for 4 years. I taught computers, graphic design. People don't know my
Absolutely.
background. I do film, animation, web design, graphic design, photography, that kind of stuff. And so watching these kids be able to teach them about how to make an animated GIF or how to use Photoshop or how to take a picture or how to tell a story through video cameras and stuff was so inspiring to see what they could come up with. And some of them would make their
100%.
own like news programs using green screens, and
Oh,
they
that's
would
cool.
edit them and make their own YouTube stuff or make a simple website that would then house all their designs for the year. That I actually have my own website and I would actually house it on there so they can say I have a real part of a website that's 20 years old. And it's kind of cool to see them really gravitate towards that, because people think internet started with social media, but it's really existed far longer than that. And some of those basics with HTML, some of the coolest things to teach. So having that moment, I agree, was super inspirational. I'm sort of sad that I don't work in the classroom anymore. I do
I
at
gotcha.
times miss that, and I love teaching people. So if anyone has any questions about streaming or art or graphics, they can always DM me, because I love teaching. It was actually, I worked for Newt Gingrich for 2 years, which I know is a polarizing thing, but in what I learned from him, one of his principles for success, he's a very successful guy, whether you like him or not, was to try to learn something and to try to teach something every day to somebody. And I think that's
Brilliant.
such a great mantra to live by. And you can gain so much information about the world around you, travel, learn from other people. cultures. And that's one of the things I love about Twitch is I've learned from so many people about modding or asking
Mhm.
questions. And just, people shouldn't ever be afraid to ask questions
I
because you don't know
completely
what they
agree.
can learn from somebody else. And I hope that people will then, who's gotten answers from others, can then pass that knowledge on to other people who might need it in the future, right? So I think that and through your music, it's very inspirational. But I understand teaching is a great one. All right, so Quantum asked, what would your "I made it" moment look like in the future? What was the, sort of like the big moment for you? I know you said friendly. You probably already think that you've made it, right? But what is in the future? If you're looking forward, what is sort of that next level?
Honestly, I would watch the Kennedy Center honors every year, and I was always so moved, not by the award itself, but the fact that that award represented a lifetime of work that came from that person's heart. And when you saw the people that came up on stage and talked about that person and the things that they said that they did that maybe other people didn't necessarily know that they were involved in, my my, my I made it moment would be seeing the effect that my music and the thing that I loved, my passion, had on the world, and seeing that ripple effect take place. Being able to reach out through a song and change somebody's day, and seeing how that either inspired action or moved things forward or changed even somebody's next minute, what they thought was possible. I've had a lot of really cool moments, and I'm very grateful to be able to say that in my career so far. But by far the coolest um, was in the UK, talking to somebody after a show and them saying that they wanted to be a singer, but they were kind of scared to do it and they didn't know what it would look like and what the job security would be. And I said, like, those are all really valid things to think about. I said, I've always been of the mind that you get a million shots to do a million different things in life, but you get one chance to really live life. And so in that moment, what is going to make you happy? What's going to make you thrive? And just talking to her about that, it was a really cool moment for me because I was like, this is a really great conversation. I'm learning a lot from this conversation as well. Fast forward a year later, and I'm playing the same place in the UK. And this other person walks up to me after the show and says, "You might not remember me, but I was there with my sister that night when you talked to her about being a singer. And she was so inspired after the show that she signed up for a singing program at the college, like our local college. She's graduating and she's pursuing it full time."
That's amazing.
And that was the craziest moment I've ever had in my life, because the thought of something that I said or something that I was doing having that kind of effect on somebody and inspiring such a positive action for that person, that I was a mess. That entire night I was a mess in like the best possible way.
That's amazing. All right, little quick scoring update. It's
Go for it.
128 to 130. Milwaukee's up by 2. They had just made it 3, but then Washington came back and made it 2 to kick out for another 3 for Milwaukee, and they bury it. It makes it Milwaukee 133, Washington 128 with 104 left. I'm sure Washington just took a timeout, and they did. I'm also Colorado. San Jose is 0-0. I have that game on as well, but
Right on.
it's God, there's so many things to unpack. So I love the emotion that you bring to music. I think that
Thank you.
it carries people through their workday or whatever they're going through and whatever they're doing. And I think that that's so inspirational. I want to give a couple of little shout outs to people in chat.
$100%.
I saw that Lucky donated an hour ago, and I'm sorry I didn't say anything. He's the first
Oh,
person to,
yo.
to donate 1,000 bits, and so he will get the cool emote when that comes out. So he'll get the Pride Charizard. Hopefully these get approved. I've submitted them. The only one that's gotten approved so far is my logo, which is kind of cool. So I appreciate everybody for giving bits and subscribing and being a part of this.
Awesome.
I also wanted to thank everybody. Also, my Liz said that she loves the award that you were talking about. And Ryan was
Right
saying
on.
the Kennedy Center is always a good watch. He loves it. He's
100%.
and I think that he says what else? There was something else that he was saying that everybody's an expert in something, so you just gotta sort of ask them. Um, and so that's good. Anyway, so crazy game. 104 left, 133, 128. We'll see what happens here in those final tense
There you go.
moments. All right, so we've gotten through some of the questions. Let's get a couple of more questions in here.
Let's do it.
Elena said, any news on a new album? And if yes, any ideas for an album name? So she's looking for
Ooh, an
some.
album name. That is a really, really good question. Usually the album name comes to me like after we've done the whole recording process. And it's one of those things that like I'm not focusing on it, I'm not thinking about it, and it just happens. Um, so I don't necessarily have an album name right now, but I can say that I am talking to a couple of different producers about working on some new stuff. And so I'm very excited to get back into the studio because we have a ton of new songs that we have written and that I know that I've premiered and played on the Twitch streams. And I'm really excited to get into the studio and bring these things to life and then send them out to all of y'all so that you can hear them.
Yeah, people are very excited in chat. 97 Dreamers looking. Sierra Mara is
Oh,
saying it's so
y'all.
exciting. So I'm really excited. Oh, Lucky says his brother is getting married this weekend. So that's pretty awesome.
Yo, Lucky, congratulations.
Congratulations
That's
for that.
amazing.
So, oh oh no, the Wizards had a chance to box out, and they would have gotten the
Um,
rebound down only two with 6 seconds left. They did not get that rebound, and unfortunately, Milwaukee scores makes it 135, 131, 6.8 seconds left. I think that this is going to be over. It's been really interesting to watch the
oh, wow.
Lopez brothers battle against each other.
Oh, wow.
And so um, that one, unfortunately, we have the wrong Lopez brother for that situation. So he got the rebound and put it back for the dunk, and it probably seals the game. We'll see if that changes. Peter's super excited. Show him the money. All right, so. Peter wanted to challenge you to write a song about sports. I won't necessarily. We don't have time to do that to today. If we had more time. But have you ever thought about doing songwriting live on streams? Just even coming up with words and using chat for inspiration, or doing anything like
Absolutely.
that? Yeah,
We've done a couple of those actually over the last little bit. Like when we introduced the Wheel of Turkey, we have write a song in there, and we've done a couple of them with the chat suggestion, and it is so much fun.
that's amazing.
Like it works the muscle in a completely different way, and I love it. I love it so much.
That's really great. Yeah, so that'll be really fun. Um, hopefully, in the future, when you get to do some of this recording process, maybe you give us like a tour, like a live stream of
Oh,
some
that
of
would
that,
be
because I think
amazing.
it'd be really cool to see some studio action. Obviously, can't show everything; you wouldn't want to, but maybe
Sure.
a glimpse or something. I think that would be such a. In watching Mike Shinoda's streams, I've just gotten so into the production bug that I'd love to see your process in that. I think that would be really interesting.
Oh, that would be amazing. I would love that.
All right, so 2.5 seconds left. Washington hits the three. So now it's 135 to 134, but they're questioning whether or not it's out of bounds. No, wait, there's still it's a 1 point game. I don't know. I completely missed that play, but obviously they've made it close, 134 to 135, and there's 2.5 seconds left. So maybe time for a foul and then a heave three here. So an
There you go.
exciting end to this game, so people can watch me nervously react to that. Uh, all right. So I was thinking
Yep.
maybe we've done a bunch of fan questions.
Brilliant.
I I don't. I'd kind of like to end with a song, but I don't know necessarily what song would be best. Whether it'd be best to do a cover or another one of your originals. I'm happy to do whatever. But I thought that maybe you talk about Bruce Springsteen and how influential he is. That maybe that would be a cool way to do just a little. I know you do a long Bruce
Absolutely.
medley, but maybe like a short sample of what one of the medleys would be like if you come to a stream. And then after that, I'll give a final scoring update on this game.
Absolutely. It's funny, the situation that the Washington is in right now reminds me of a game Toronto was in last season when Kyle Lowry had to inbound the ball to Obi, and he had to get it over. I think they were playing either the Celtics or the Bucks, and they have like this 7-foot something just tree that he had to get it over, and he lobbed the thing, and it like they ended up getting it, but it was one of those like, you got to be kidding me. Lowry's trying to get over this guy.
Yeah, real quickly, No Spots Pod just said Bradley Beal this 29th 40-point game, and you would think that's good, but he loses almost every game he scores 40 or more, which is the craziest stat. It's like, oh man, all that work for nothing. But anyway, I'll let you get into the Bruce medley, and then I'll come back and give a final scoring update.
No worries. Bruce Springsteen medley. Here we go. Hey, little girl, is your daddy home? Did he go away and leave you all alone? I got a bad desire. Oh, I'm on fire. Tell me now, baby, is he good to you? Does he do the things that you want him to? I can take you higher. Oh, I'm on fire. Sometimes it's like someone took a knife, baby, edgy and dull, and cut a 6-inch valley through the middle of my skull. At night I wake up with the sheets soaking wet and a freight train running through the middle of my head. Only you can cool my desire. Oh, I'm on fire. Oh, I'm on fire. Lights out tonight, trouble in the heartland with a head-on collision, smashing in my gut slam, caught in a crossfire, but I don't understand. Well, there's one thing I know for sure, girl, I don't give a damn. But the same old played out scenes, man, I don't give a damn for just the in-betweens. Honey, I want your heart, I want your soul, I want control right now. You better listen to me, baby. Talk about a dream. Try to make it real. When you wake up in the night and the fear's so real, you spend your life waiting for a moment that just don't come. Don't waste your time waiting. Badlands, you gotta live it every day. To the broken heart stand, it's a price you gotta pay. Rattlesnake Speedway in the Utah desert. I pick up my money and head back into town. Driving across the Waynesburg County line. I got the radio on and I'm just killing time. Working all day in my daddy's garage. Driving all night chasing some mirage. Pretty soon, little girl, I'm gonna take charge. For the dogs on Main Street howl, 'cause they understand if I can take one moment into my hands. Mister, I ain't a boy, no, I'm a man, and I believe in the promised land. In the day we sweated out on the streets of a runaway American dream. At night we'd ride through mansions of glory and suicide machines. Sprung from cages on Highway 9, cold wheel fuel injected, stepping out over the line. Whoa, baby, this town rips the bones from your back. It's a death trap, it's a suicide rap. We gotta get out while we're young, 'cause tramps like us, baby, we were born to run. Yes, girl, we were. Will you let me in? I wanna be a friend. I wanna guard your dreams and visions. Just wrap your legs round these velvet rims and strap your hands across my engine. Together we could break this trap. We'll run till we drop. Baby, we'll never go back. Whoa, will you run with me out on the wire? 'Cause baby, I'm just a scared, lonely rider. But I gotta know how it feels. I wanna know if love is wild, baby. I wanna know if love is real. Oh, can you show me? Beyond the palace, heavy-powered drones scream down the boulevard. Girls comb their hair in the rearview mirrors, and the boys try to look so hard. The amusement park rises bold and stark. Kids are huddled on the beach in the mist. I wanna die with you, Eddie, on the streets tonight in an everlasting kiss. Huh! Well, the highway's jammed with broken heroes on a last chance power drive. Everybody's out on the run tonight, but there's no place left to hide. Together, Wendy, we can live with the sadness. I love you with all the madness in my soul. Whoa, someday, girl, I don't know when we're gonna get to that place where we really wanna go, and we'll walk in the sun. But till then, tramps like us, baby, we were born to run. Tramps like us, baby, we were born to run. Tramps like us, baby, we were born to run. Whoa, whoa. Oh, 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 Hey, Liz, how you doing?
thought I'd bring a special guest. She
Thank
doesn't
you.
usually stream with me, but we're both obviously big Josh fans. So I thought for at the end of the show, I would bring her in. I know that Quantum had asked for her to make a appearance. So this is Liz. For people that don't
Oh,
know,
I'm
you
so
might
glad
be
you
able to hear
could.
Zach upstairs. He's not too happy right now. Real quickly, the scoring update that I promised everybody. The Wizards lose by 135 to 134. The Wizards actually broke up a final shot, got the ball. Garrison Matthews dribbles up
Oh,
to the
what?
midcourt, heaves it up, and it rims out. And so
Oh,
they lose the game. They would have won it on that half court shot. So
Congratulations, Peter.
yeah, so Peter, I
You
know.
bet right.
Yeah, you bet right on that. So and I know Josh. Now that leads us only 3 games apart. So tomorrow's game
there you
between
go.
Toronto and Washington now means that much more. So
That's going to be an intense game.
it'll be a really intense game. All right. Well, we've kept you for longer. I really love this show. Well, maybe I'll have to do a sequel and ask some of the
I
other
would
questions
love
we
that,
didn't
man.
get to tonight. But I really appreciate all the time that you've given us. And we love you. And so we're so happy to be a part of this and have you be a part of my first of this new thing. And thank you again to everybody who was a part of this awesome night tonight. I just want to give a couple of shout outs to Maddie, Sierra Mara, Carly, Quantum, a lot of people sticking around. I see that Denise is actually in chat, my
That's
mother-in-law. And so really, Turbo, the flat guy, lots of
Yo,
people.
Swimmy. What's
And
going on?
so it's cool. It's Kenny just joined in. Hey Kenny, how you doing? So
What up, Kenny?
so that's awesome. So I'm a big fan of Kenny. So it's been a really fun night. I guess I'm going to ask the people in this group, does anyone have anybody that we should raid with this group tonight before we end
There
it?
you go.
If anyone has any suggestions, I know that KR and Sarah Cameron are both on. So those are sort of people I was thinking.
Both solid options right there.
Yeah. So, but if people have other ones that they want to throw out there, we can take a look at them. I know. So Poppy Tunes, Yama's TV. Okay, sounds good.
Before we go,
yeah,
I can't see the chat, but can everybody in the chat send some love to Robbie? Because this was so much fun, and he did so much prep work for this. Like it was so Robbie. It was honestly a pleasure working with you on this show. I would love to do this again. And I'm really glad that we could connect like this, man. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really incredible. I just love this experience. We'll definitely have to find a time, maybe in the playoffs or something.
Oh, that would be brilliant.
Maybe down the line, who knows? Maybe we both make it to the Final Four and have a Toronto Capitals.
That would be fantastic.
That would be really exciting. So I really
playoff sequel.
Yeah, playoff sequel indeed. So yeah, it'll be tons of fun. But if people want to catch your music, you can go to joshtaerk.com. Also Twitch. And Carly will put in the command for Josh right now. Thank you. And people should go follow him if they don't. I'm sure most of the people came over that know Josh, but I know that he's streaming again tomorrow. I believe it's a noon start tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow noon Eastern time.
Nice. So definitely check that out. I'm sure it'll be a great show as always. Big shout out to Kenny, to Peter. Thanks for joining my mod squad. I didn't even ask you. I just kind of made you a mod. But I figured Peter mods everybody, so
there you go.
It's expected.
Peter's got
it. I also modded Jazzy because I know he mods everywhere too. So I appreciate my 2 latest mods that I didn't even ask ahead of time. But I really appreciate everyone for joining me. We got the ups for the Caps, the downs for the Wizards, but just a great time. A lot of great music, and I really appreciate that. I think we actually are going to raid Sarah Cameron music.
Right on.
Really fantastic. I'm gonna try to pull hers up right here.
It's been a while since I've been in a Sarah Cameron stream. That's awesome.
Yeah, she is phenomenal. So I hope that people really love her. And so we're gonna. There's the raid call, which I think is hilarious. Carly came up with goal. Robbie is rating. And my love of hockey. So I really appreciate you, Josh. As always, I'm going to initiate that. I'm going to stop our Facebook live stream right now. Thank you, anyone tuning in for